When we talk about why people use, there are many different reasons. Some of the reasons that are very noticeable for me is in schools and in college. And I've seen a lot of death related accidents in college students because of being under the influence of alcohol and substances. Our high schools and middle schools are becoming increasingly dangerous with opiates being passed around. In our community, it has increased in deaths. When we look at the medical and disease model, we start looking at things that are coming up that's very helpful, such as the organization of AA. It has been helpful and it still is helpful. However, some people find it that it's not helpful and it's more of a trigger for them. So that is very hard to kind of understand for someone that really benefits from AA. There are treatment programs, there are outpatient programs that are available and that are helpful. Inpatient treatment programs, those are also helpful. But I look at treatment, inpatient treatment, as if someone wants to be there. Example, if you had an intervention for someone that doesn't want to go to treatment or any kind of treatment, you're forcing someone to go, which they're not doing it for themselves. Either they will do it for someone else or they will do it to get it over with. But the outcome of the results may not be what someone or family what is expecting. With a person that's not ready to go to inpatient treatment, they are more likely to relapse. They are triggered more easily. Their tolerance builds where it gets bigger and it gets higher. So they're often needing something more than heroin. It would be fentanyl. In the moral theory, they talk about how you're responsible for your own actions. They don't look at substance abuse, they don't look at alcoholism as a disease at all. They look at it as morally wrong and evil. In a genetic theory, it can be passed down from the mother or the father, but also it talks about adoption and how it can also be from you can also get develop substance abuse or alcoholism from if you were adopted. For example, I was adopted and I don't have any of the things from my birth mom that may have been passed down. She doesn't have a substance abuse problem. She's non-alcoholic. I have experimented with many drugs and alcohol. I had continued on the path until I got the treatment that I needed. With the behavioral model, they look at reinforcements and how someone has continued to use and what effects will continue when you when you're continuing to use. With the cognitive behavioral theory, there is a lot that goes on with the behavioral cognitive theory. A lot of times when you are in treatment and sometimes you don't really focus on the underlying of some issues that could be going on, like family life, stress, why you may be triggered, what what is some stuff in your past history that was never really talked about. When you start becoming when you start your sobriety, a lot of people may often people think that they're doing really good with their sobriety, so they feel like that they can handle their own, they can control their own use, when more likely it could be harmful because haven't really experienced the underlying issues that need to be talked about. In the sociocultural theory, again, it comes a lot from your background, from inner cities with lower income families, education wise. Someone that's in inner cities, they may not finish their education because they don't may have access to good education, or they may have a history of family that has dropped out, which that has continued down to adolescence. And a lot of times, adolescence, that's where alcohol starts in being experimented, marijuana, and background can be you're dysfunctional family. What kind of parents do you have? Are you living with a single parent, or do you have both? Do you have a do you have both parents? Do they fight a lot? Have have you observed them partying, or have observed them drinking um, a large amount, consuming a large amount of alcohol, or or parent might be stressed out, so they have turned to using marijuana every once in a while, but that increases to using it as a stress reliever. When you look at background, there is a lot of underlying issues that is not really talked about in treatment or in individual therapy. When we look at the behavioral theory, we look at different reasons why, how we can, you know, reinforce someone that is continuing to use, and what we can do to change that. The cognitive theory for me very very important, and is something that I really focus on because of how someone is going to work on their underlying issues. It could be getting the help is very important, and getting the right kind of treatment, such as individual therapy, family therapy. If parents need therapy to help with how to deal with an adolescent, that needs to be addressed. The reasons why people use is that it's not being addressed enough. There's not enough resources that can help with why middle school students are starting to use. And it has increased to the amount of opiates that are being in school, and has increased to now in college, where there has become many deaths that is continuing, and it is not decreasing.